Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be checking out the Gleaming Depths raid. We've been doing it with 3 people and I'm going to show you guys what we did and how we went about doing that. So let's crack on with the video. So let's talk about the first section, first phase, whatever you want to call it, of the raid. So this first section, in my opinion, isn't too difficult when you have the obvious right setup. Now, power armor, a lot of people are going to be using on this section for a couple of reasons. One, power armor gets an inherent damage reduction and it's pretty huge. It's I think between 47 or 49%. I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically each piece, I think it's 7% per piece of damage reduction, which is huge. Then you couple that with the power armors that you're using, actual resistances on top of that, plus your cards, and you can get pretty tanky with power armor. So a lot of people are going to be using power armor because, in my opinion, it is the easiest to stay alive in. But does that mean you have to use power armor? No. I've seen people come in without power armor, using railway rifles and so on, and you know, they're doing a fantastic job. They're doing their big damage. They're also surviving. There was one guy who came in here and he did the whole thing all the way up to the serpent boss with us, and did the serpent boss with us and survived all the way through. The only time he actually died was to the insta-kill one-shot moles, and we will get to that a little bit later. So the weapons that I like to use here, outside of cheesing this boss with melee, because you can do that and kill this relatively quickly, like literally in one phase, but without that high level of cheese, and you just want to come in here and have a good time with your friends, we're using the Holy Fire because it applies dot damage. And what's happening with dot damage is it's applying the dot and damaging the boss through the shield. So Holy Fire has pretty good reach, hence I've chosen this weapon. It also applies a pretty strong dot, not as good as Cremator. You could probably use a Cremator if you want to. I've just opted for the Holy Fire because I just like using the Holy Fire. And the dot damage goes through the shield, so you can see here that the health of the boss, the bottom bar, is actually ticking down as we're whittling down the shield, and it definitely helps out. Now, a plasma cast is also a good weapon to use in this raid in terms of heavy weapons. If you want to use the rifles, railway rifle, obviously an absolute staple, hits really hard in here. You're probably going to need to get something like attack speed, as it's going to be a little difficult to do much else besides just dodging and firing as much as possible. But find what you find comfortable that hits pretty hard. Remember, this is a raid, and if you're doing a raid in any other sort of MMO, this is sort of end game content. So don't come in here with your casual whatever set and expect to have phenomenal success. I'm not saying you can't be successful, but you might find it difficult. This is a raid after all, and it is end game content after all. So with the weapons out the way, let's talk about the power armor that I'm personally using. Now, obviously, you don't have to use this. I'm personally using the my friend actually stayed behind here and died to finish off the boss, which I think is pretty funny. But I'm using the Strangleheart. Sorry, I completely forgot the name of it for a second. I'm using Strangleheart, and Strangleheart basically applies dot with your weapon, a poison dot as well. So what I was theory crafting is that I can get both poison and fire dots on the boss to try and maximize the amount of dot damage that I'm doing, and that's basically why I am wearing this armor set. It also has a lot better resistances than excavators, which is what I have a full set of Overeater's Excavator. I'm now currently in a full set of Overeater's Strangleheart, and for my melee build, I actually got a full set of the Vulcan set, and I am rocking Troubleshooters on there. Right, so let's skip over to the next section and talk about that. So now we're on the second part of the raid, and some people arguably say that this is the hardest part of the raid. You let me know in the comments down below. So this part has a few things to it. Now you can see that I'm not in my power armor. You can see my Pip-Boy there. You can see my hands and stuff, and I am in first person. I'll be using, at least in this run, in some of the runs I was experimenting just using the Holy Fire, but in this I'm going to be using the Plasma Caster. The Plasma Caster just does fat damage. You want something that can hit pretty hard and just get rid of the mobs that are coming here, the mole miners, and the most important things is the rats that go beep beep beep. It's kind of annoying, but those rats will actually run to the drill here. Now the bottom HP bar is the drill, and that drill basically needs to stay alive while people are grabbing fuel canisters and feeding it into the drill. So when you're, and basically you bring the fuel canisters to the button that you start this whole section in, and just below that button you throw in the fuel canisters and you go back out and go get some more. So basically you want to hold off these mole miners. Now you can see I've jumped down and I've switched over to a Holy Fire because there's different phases to this section. There's actually 3. So you start off at phase 1, let's say, then you go to phase 2, and the minions get a little bit hotter and so on, and tankier, and then you go to phase 3, and then they're at their true form, you could say, and they get a little bit harder. So here I'm using a bloodied attack speed Holy Fire, and it just has a lot more DPS than using the Plasma Caster at this point, hence I'm using it. And I wanted to make sure to hold off, as there's only 2 of us. One of our members died here, so there's only 2 of us trying to get through this. We should be able to squeeze this one out. But another thing is that when you're actually going to go get the canisters, there are these mole miners in there. Now they're not your normal mole miners. They cannot be killed. You cannot damage them in any way, shape, or form, unless there's some weird bug or glitch or cheese that someone knows of that I haven't seen. Either way, we're not here for that. So you can't destroy them or anything like that. You can stagger them, but for the most part, I think just avoiding them is the best thing, and that's how we do it. Just avoid them to the best of your abilities. There are going to be occasions where you're not going to be able to avoid them. You might have gotten yourself trapped, you might have misjudged the situation, or you just don't know fully the area and you get yourself cornered maybe by 2 or 3 of them and you die. And yes, you can get up to 3 of them on you. So these basically will one-shot you, these special mole miners, as well. So if they punch you, you are dead. So it's a bit of a cat-mouse situation back there, and you can see here I was debating going to help get some canisters, but I can hear the beeping, and those beeping means there are rats coming to blow up the drill. So I'm just going to hold the fort while my friend is in there. And basically that's the gist of this. You got to get canisters and try not to die to one-shot mole miners while someone stays behind and fends off the hordes of mole miners that are coming, that progressively get hotter over time. You're gonna need some hard-hitting weapons, especially for this later phase. If you don't get it done quickly enough, you can avoid phase 3 and just get pretty much to phase 2 if you're fast enough and lucky enough when it comes to the one-shot mole miners and the gas canisters. But really that's when you're with 4 people, because obviously it's quicker with 4 than with 3. All right, now onto section 3. Here you're going to have 3 bosses, each doing something different. You're going to have a melee boss, you're going to have a grenade launching boss that will slow you down and zap your AP, and you're also going to have a Gauss rifle boss that will do fairly large amounts of damage, especially if you're bloodied and without power armor, and also will slow you. There's a lot of slows in this section, so you have to be mindful of that. To be able to damage the bosses, you have to have A, B, and C. There's going to be generators in A, B, and C sections, and you will see the letters as we go around. And you basically, all 3 generators have to be destroyed. If one generator is online, like we have in this situation here, you got to go back and destroy the generator and make sure to clear out these bots, because these little iBots, they will repair the generator. So make sure you destroy those little repair bots floating around and continue bashing the 3 bosses. Pretty straightforward phase, so I think we can just cut straight on to the next section. All right, so now we're on section 4, and here you're gonna have one of those one-shot mole miners, and that's it. They're running in front of us there. So if you let this thing hit you, you're dead. Now I believe that you can get saved, like you can get a chance to evade the shot, but I'm not gonna risk that. That's like literally gambling your life. And yeah, so just avoid it. And basically this segment is also pretty straightforward. You want to try and group as many of the creatures as possible, including the mole miner if you can, and you want to shoot these crystals. These crystals will damage and put a burn on the creatures, and that's the only way you're going to be able to damage them. I experienced a little bit of lag there, but it's the only way you're going to be able to really damage them. Now obviously the bigger the crystal, the bigger the damage. So you can see that there's some crystals hanging up on the ceiling. Those crystals there that are hanging down, sorry, you want to make sure that you save those for later stages. Later stages you're going to get much bigger like death claws and stuff coming for you. So I kind of saved those bigger crystals for that, to just try and clear them quickly. And pretty much that's about it, really. So group up mobs, shoot crystals, damage them, save the big ones for the big creatures like death claws and stuff, so you're not having to go to crystal try kill it. You can try kill it in 2 big ones instead, and you can get this done relatively quickly. I would say this is one of the easiest phases, if not the easiest phase. Maybe the previous phase was, but your section was. But either way, this is a very easy section, and fairly straightforward when you understand what you got to do. Just got to play a little bit of cat and mouse with that one-shot mole miner until you kill it. All right, so the final boss, section 5, the Basilisk. Pretty cool boss. This looks awesome. The place looks awesome. So a couple mechanics for this boss. One of them you just saw there, that screech. It's going to do it. It can do it twice like it just did there. And basically it's going to push you, and the way to avoid it is to jump over it or to use a jetpack and just avoid the whole thing. Another mechanic is the tail that you see right now. This tail will hit the platform you're standing on if you don't kill it fast enough, and it will destroy part of the platform. So if you don't kill enough of them, the platform will just start disappearing, and you're gonna kind of be screwed, in my opinion. If you do get into the green goop, you see it everywhere, as in like the water toxic stuff that the boss is swimming in. That will kill you too. And I've had the boss do this attack here, where it just slaps its face on the platform and scoop me up and pull me over to it, over the green goop, and I've had to sort of float back. And it can be really scary when that happens, because if your AP isn't really there, maybe you were using it for something, and that happens to you, well, you might be dead. So especially if you don't have a jetpack, you're probably dead. It's definitely not a mechanic getting eaten by the boss, but it can definitely happen. Another thing is, you can see that the boss does various different types of spits, like that one there. And what's that going to do? It just left a green goop on the floor, and that green goop on the floor will do a tremendous amount of damage if you're not careful. So definitely watch where you're stepping and watch what the boss is doing. There's various other little spit things that it does too. Some of them I found that you couldn't really avoid. They just spat at me again and left some goop on the floor. But really it's just a matter of watching your footing. You can see that I spend a lot of time in the air, and I find that I'm able to avoid a lot of the attacks of the boss. But obviously you're going to need a bit of AP regen on your armor. If you get the new set, the Vulcan set, you get the 6-piece bonus, you will get that 25% AP regen. So it's just like having 5-piece on each piece of armor, and then you could probably have something like strength or whatever. It's a 2-star effect, which I think is pretty cool as an option. Now, you don't have to use power armor and heavy weapons for this boss. As I've stated in other sections of this video, I've seen people do this without power armor, with railway rifles and stuff. It's a possibility. You can do it, you can survive, and you can find great success by doing it. The reason power armor is used is because it gives people a little bit more leeway in staying alive, and you know, if you screw up, right? So it's just something to think about, something to be mindful of, because it obviously power armor has more HP, not HP, but more defense. So that's pretty much it. Besides the very last section to the boss, and that's basically a DPS check. So you're gonna get the boss down to maybe about 10%, maybe it's even 5% of the health, and the boss will slam its face down to the ground, and then you're gonna have a DPS check. This is the DPS check right here. I'm gonna pop a psycho buff, I'm gonna whip out my holy fire, and we're gonna give this boss a bloody good time. If you do not kill the boss in time, everybody wipes. It's just as simple as that. You get it to here. If you don't do it, well, good luck and try again. We managed to complete it with our team here, and destroy the basilisk and save the Appalachian lands once again. You can see some of the loot I got from this specific boss. Each segment's going to have this sort of loot, unless you want the unique weapons, which are locked to each section, various different weapons. But yeah, so it wasn't too bad. We got a bunch of stuff, bunch of chems, bunch of, you know, you get mods from this, you get all sorts of stuff, ammo, a lot of stim packs when you actually complete it. So just a tremendous amount of stuff that you can get from this raid. And that will wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys found it informative, and I hope you realize that this is obviously not the best way to do it. Obviously melee builds are completely just smashing through this raid, but if you don't want to do a melee build and you just want to have some fun with some friends and actually have a little bit of a challenge too and work together, this is obviously the route to go, in my personal humble opinion. If you have any tips, tricks, or information that you want to share with the community, definitely share it in the comments down below. Either way, cheers all for joining me, thanks all for watching, and I'm going to catch you all on the next one.